All right, let's talk some Detroit Lions football real quick. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, bell icon button, share the video. And the word on the street is few Lions are out. Practice. Obviously, Kenny Galloday is out. Tyrell Crosby is out. Jeff Okudah is out. And CJ Moore is out for the Detroit Lions. But DeAndre Swift is back to practice. Let's talk about it. That subscribe button, bell icon button, share the video. Appreciate the love, support. And that's huge because Jeff Okudah is the speed guy. DeAndre Swift is a speed guy. Important coming out the backfield. And low-key, he really had a good fantasy year. At least catching the ball at the backfield. And now they play the Green Bay Packers, where last time they had no traction versus them in the run game. And they ran all over us in Lambeau. Obviously, they come into Ford Field this week with no fans in the stands. But having DeAndre Swift is humongous shift. And I get it with them making a playoff run and Bevel trying to go for it and get a permanent head coaching job with the Detroit Lions. But my whole thing is I wouldn't play that brother again this season, especially with a brain injury, especially, when you had a job at best. He had some issues with head injuries in college. His career pretty much went to hell over that. To me, it's just not that important. To all the coaching staff, Corey Ewing got to move his family. If the new head coach isn't forced to keep him or don't keep him, I get it. I get that they want to win football games. They want to show that Matt Patricia was the issue. But then again, with DeAndre Swift, who having migraines and, even after clearing concussion protocol, it's tough, especially when he one of the few dudes that's really going to have to be part of a foundation for the new roster. Him, Aurarie, Okudah, Jeff Okudah, despite what y'all say, y'all don't like him. Obviously Matthew Stafford. I'm going to get to another video about, it's about Stafford, but it's really not about Stafford. Depending on what you do with Galloday, the offensive line, it's very, very important that you're really good players and, going from left to right, Decker, Jonah Jackson, Ragnow, who just ran Akeem Hicks dick in the dirt. That was the best play, low-key, of Sunday's game versus the Bears. When Jeff Okudah tried to bury Frank Ragnow tried to bury Hakeem Nicks 12 feet under the ground, not 6 feet, 12 feet. That's just football. That's what you want. You want 5 Ragnows across your offensive line, no doubt about it. But that was a beautiful play. And then you go maybe Tyrell Crosby. That offensive line is good enough to go. But what makes a beautiful offensive line is depth. Big V as well. Too. That makes depth. So you gotta have depth. So if you in the 4th or 5th round, 3rd round, and you see a guy that got potential to play left tackle, you get him. When you get into the, I'm gonna just say this, when you get into the draft, these socks is tight. When you get into the draft, when you get into the second, anything, I'm just say 3rd, 4th, 5th round, 6th, 7th, you draft high risk players because ain't really no risk. You draft the best available. Forget you can have 30 good kickers. What if you got a kicker that can kick it 70 yards? That just need to hone his skills. You throw them on a practice squad. You draft the interior linemen, the tackles that might need a little bit more experience, the speed guys that probably maybe not have a defined role. Look at Antonio Gibson for the Washington football team. He didn't have a defined role. He was a receiver scat back for them, for Memphis last year. And look at him. He's a running back that's running between the tackles. So you take chances on guys like that. Small school guys that got talent. Draft ain't too hard. It's just like these executive and these general managers, these scouts make it harder than it got to be. But then again, you look at it, it's a good job. Had they took Herbert or Tua last year and moved up for Burrows, this has been a perfect job. You got the O-line, you got the tight end, you got a good running back in Swift. You can add a balanced back or a power back with him. You got Galloday if you want to keep him. You got a good offense. You look at the defense. We got Okudah. He going to get better. Got Aurarie. He a number 1 corner. Because with Okudah ain't over with yet, people say, he need to switch to free safety. Shut up. You don't even know what a fucking free safety is. We need to go. He's a cornerback. It just takes time. Let me know how many cornerbacks that came into the league hitting the ground running. Deion was glorified because he played baseball and he returned kicks. But it's growing pains through being a cornerback and being on that island. Guess what? The game is harder to play at cornerback for Jeff Okudah than it was for Deion Sanders when he came into the league, where you can't touch nobody. You can't, press him past 5 yards. That's just the way it is. But Jeff Okudah going to be fine. So you look at this team, not a bad team. You got Walker, who just been misutilized. You got 2 good corners that's ready to go right now, who both 6'2" with long arms, Okudah or Aurarie. Your problem is in the front five. The guys that you love is Romeo Okoro. Don't forget you love John Panensi. He's a good depth guy. And then outside of that, you still got Trey Flowers. Then you still got Julian Okoro that's gonna have a chance to be really good as well too. So, really, this team not that far away. It's really a good draft, probably 2 good drafts away, and probably 2 good free agency away from being a really good football team. So that really don't bother me, man. Even if you don't keep Kenny Galloday, you still got a great team. You still got some really good players. You got a veteran quarterback that can groom another young quarterback. Then think about it. Think about the quarterbacks that think that might be available next year. Jimmy Garoppolo, Jameis Winston, who don't look so bad now that Tom is struggling in Tampa due to Bruce Arians' shortcomings and ability not to kind of make adjustments. There might be a few other quarterbacks. Sam Darnold might be available next year. Tyrell Taylor. There's some quarterbacks that probably can get you through. Ryan Fitzpatrick might be able to get you through. So it's not a situation where it's over and it's done for the Detroit Lions, in my opinion, or it's a hard job to do. Really, you in the best situation. Only issues here is the pass catching in the front 7. You got a quarterback that can groom another quarterback. You got the front 5. Got a really good old line. Really your only issues is pass catcher to front 7, and it's easier said than done. Then there's talks about, do you bring Predator back? You got to remember, after Jason Hansen, you went through a lot of stupid kickers that didn't really get the job done. So that's an issue as well too. So we'll see kind of, where they go. But also Tyrell Crosby being out, that's a huge issue. I mean, really, he's a guy that's depth. He can play some left tackle, some guard. He that Swiss Army knife, but that hurt. Especially with Big V, struggling at the right spot, and the right side is really the run side. So that's an issue. And then you got Kenny Galloday that's, they're struggling with a hip, and most people think he bullshitting because they ain't paying him. Exactly. You've been paying on a discount for 3 or 4 years, like we talked about earlier in the first video we did today. I get it. I'm not knocking him. Really, you hope the best for him. People didn't believe me when I said they was going to get rid of Golden Tate, and they did. And Golden Tate struggled, since going to we got traded to the Eagles, then he went to the Giants. He struggled there because it's hard to get good quarterback play, and he had to find a hard knock life out real quick. But, with Galloday, people say, well, receivers are a dime a dozen. Okay, that's true. But then you talking about an organization who done missed on some receivers. Nate Burleson didn't come here and do what he supposed to do free agent wise. I mean, remember they took my man's out of, what's his name, Derek Williams, whatever his name, they took him out of Penn State. Didn't work. They couldn't get the right receiver next to Calvin Johnson until they got Golden Tate. So you're talking about a team who historically struggled to find receivers, Mike Williams, Charles Rogers, Roy Williams. And that was the greatest trade probably in Lions history, being able to trade Roy Williams back to Texas, to Dallas, because he went to the University of Texas. That probably was the greatest trade in Lions history. You got a haul for it. But, the Lions historically had issues since the turn of the century in finding quarterback play. People forget that. We had some success in the 90s. Brett Perriman, shout out to the University of Miami, Herman Moore, Johnny Morton. Then eventually, late 90s, you got Jermaine Crowell, who would have been the Lions' great receiver and got injured. But then again, you struggle finding receivers. You struggle finding tight ends. People got to remember that. This organization ain't been good in finding guys, at different positions or middle of the draft. And now you got one in Kenny Galloday. You might want to keep him. 26 years old, 3 or 4 or 5 year contract. He still be pretty much in his prime, most of that contract. So you talking about an organization like they can pick a peach or an apple off of a tree, and they can go pick another ripe peach or good apple or peach off the tree. It don't necessarily work that way with this organization, and people need to figure that out, and they need to understand that. So when you got a good player, you draft him, you do right by him, he developed, he stayed out of the news, he stayed out of trouble, you pay him. And then you got CJ Moore that's injured, which, he's a depth guy, I believe, in the secondary, so maybe more special teams guy. But, people act like the Lions could just go out there and find the next Kenny Galloday. They lucked up getting the next Kenny Galloday. Getting the next Calvin Johnson after Kenny Galloday. So I say, you're more than likely, depending on the guy that come in and draft, if you don't bring none of your pass catchers back next year, which none of them should come back, not named Kenny Galloday, as far as under contract, they ain't under contract, gonna have an issue. But hey, let me know what you guys think. Don't forget to check out Detroit Lions Talk playlist. Don't forget me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Reach out if you have a business question, inquiry, sponsorship, video request. All our social media links in the description. Fast way to reach me is Twitter, then Facebook, then Instagram. If you want a video request, business inquiry, you want to advertise your business on the channel, or just want to chop it up, all my links in the description. Want to make a donation, Cash App CJ Good 313. That's in the description. PayPal link there as well too. Appreciate the love, support. We gone.